Hello everyone and welcome back to Creation Myths. On April 30th, 2025, I published a video commenting on a recent article by Dr. Michael Behe on Discovery Institute's blog, Evolution News. In the approximately 2 weeks since then, as I sit here recording this right now, I have been living rent-free at Discovery Institute. In response to my video, Discovery Institute has put out so far 4 videos and 5 blog articles. At one point, there were 3 articles responding to me on the front page of the Evolution News blog at the same time. So apparently I touched a bit of a nerve with that original video. When I last commented on their response, the tally was 2 videos and 2 articles, so they've been busy little beavers in Seattle, apparently with nothing better to do with their 7-figure funding, at least, than fight with a tiny YouTube channel. I'm not going to go through the nuts and bolts of every point they want to argue about, because as I explained in my last video on this little kerfuffle, they're trying to distract everyone from the actual point I was making, which was to point out the clear and obvious lies in Dr. Behe's April 25th article. And we're not going to get distracted by the shiny objects they keep dangling in front of our faces. So today, we're going to keep that up by pointing out a couple of additional examples of the tactics on display. So when you, viewer, encounter these tactics in the wild, whether they're coming from creationists or anti-vaxxers, climate deniers, whatever form of anti-science propaganda you encounter, you can identify them and call them out. The first thing we're going to do here is take a look at a moment from Dr. Cornelius Hunter's 3rd video in his series responding to my original article, which so far has 4 videos in it. In this 3rd installment, he did at least motion towards defending Behe's claims, sort of. What he actually did was take offense at my interpretation of Behe's words in Behe's original article, which, kind of amounts to a defense of Behe, and it's the closest we're going to get, so we'll take it. We're going to use this to illustrate the underhanded tactics, because as you'll see, even though he tries to defend Behe in a way, he doesn't do so honestly. The context for this is this line from Behe's original article. Quote, "The killer question is, what could build cool new features, such as bats flying or whales living in the ocean? What could drive the construction of animals that had never before been seen on Earth?" And then cutting out the header for the next section, the next sentence reads, "It's right about here that Darwin boosters go mute." Here's how Dr. Hunter framed this. Notice anything missing? The previous paragraph. The entire setup is gone from the way Dr. Hunter presented what I said about what Behe said. Instead, he talks about the next paragraph. None of that matters. The questions alluded to in the section header there are referring to the previous sentence, the sentence that Dr. Hunter omitted. In doing so, he's obscuring the plain meaning of what Behe wrote. Does everyone see how this gets exhausting? The constant, seemingly purposeful obtusity? It's right about here where Darwin boosters go mute. That sentence, that line, is referring to the question in the previous sentence. That's the here that's being referenced. So if you're going to explain how that claim isn't a lie, you have to explain it in the context of the previous sentence, not cut out that previous sentence from your purported defense of the author of that line. For the next example, we'll look at something Dr. Behe himself wrote, because one of the responses was from Dr. Behe. And again, I want to take a look at a specific example to highlight the tactics on display. We're not going to go chasing everyone down every rabbit hole they throw in front of us. So throughout this article, Dr. Behe engages in what I would call revisionism to whitewash the claims he made. In doing so, similar to what we just saw from Dr. Hunter, he either strips out the original context or just straight up ignores what the original context was and what words actually mean. I'm going to focus on the part surrounding this paragraph right here. Behe wrote, quote, "As a succession of sages of the centuries wrestled futilely with the question of what mechanisms could possibly account for the elegant structures of life, various monikers have been attached to the notion of evolution: Lamarck's theory, Darwin's theory, neo-Darwinism, the modern synthesis, the extended evolutionary synthesis." You'll note that I highlighted the word moniker here, and there's a reason for that we're going to get to in just a minute. Behe's response was this. The quoted sentence plainly states that sages wrestled with the question of a mechanism, which is demonstrated by the fact that Lamarck, Darwin, etc. proposed different mechanisms. You all see the problem? That's not what he wrote. That's not the meaning of what he wrote at all. Let's go back to the original article. Let's see what he wrote and what the context is. First, he uses the word moniker to precede his list. Moniker means name. He's saying we've called this thing different names over the years, as though those ideas are just the same thing with different labels attached to it. He's trying to shift the focus to the previous clause by talking about mechanisms, but contra his claim, the plain reading of the sentence has the word moniker applying to that list, Lamarck's theory, Darwin's theory, etc., and again, that means name. So he's saying we've had these different names for this thing, evolutionary theory. And then he follows that up by talking about evolutionary theory in the singular, having in the previous paragraph lumped those things together. So no, he was not talking about different mechanisms that have different names or different theories, plural, of evolution that have different names. He was talking about evolutionary theory having different names over the years, lumping everything together. That's made clear by the use of the word moniker. And appealing to the previous clause, talking about mechanisms doesn't undo that. If Dr. Behe's claim is, I meant this other thing, then my response to that is, you should have wrote that other thing instead of the words you actually wrote. My point in going through this is to illustrate the tactics employed by Discovery Institute, which are the same kinds of things you could find coming from any other creationist organization, or any other pseudoscience organization for that matter. When you point out incorrect or dishonest claims and statements, don't expect good faith engagement in response. The important thing is to keep your eye on the ball and don't get distracted by the torrent of false claims and shiny objects. You'll want to correct every little thing about this or that. I struggle with this, right? I want to talk about science. I'm a science communicator. That's part of what I do. I love teaching science. But if I chase every little thing they throw at me, I'm never going to make my big point. This is due to something called the bullshit asymmetry principle. It'll take so much time to address every little incorrect statement, you'll never get back to your original point. And to be crystal clear, that is the goal. That's the tactic used to prevent people from actually making their points. So don't take the bait. If you are engaging with creationists or climate deniers or anti-vaxxers or anything else, stay laser focused on the point you want to make it clearly, make it repeatedly, and rather than chasing the creationists or whoever down every rabbit hole they offer, point out what they're doing when they do that, why they're doing it, and ask them why they're changing the subject instead of focusing on the thing you were talking about. Through my own personal experience, I've come to expect this kind of thing, and at this point, I'm surprised when I met with a good faith conversation that focuses on whatever the actual topic is and doesn't attempt to spin off in a million different directions. And that's true whether I'm talking to creationists or anti-vaxxers or, honestly, at this point, like conservatives in the United States, right? It's the same basic set of tactics and misinformation across all these different realms. Now, I've actually had a bunch of these really good conversations with professional creationists on this channel and a few of them elsewhere. But proportionally, they are few and far between, and the way this conversation has progressed is much more typical. So my goal with this video here is to show you, the viewer, the tactics that you're likely to encounter so that you can see how they work, know what to expect, and be able to respond appropriately. Thank you all for watching. Please remember to hit the like button, comment, subscribe, do the things. If you're not a channel member, consider becoming a channel member. You get access to videos like this right away instead of waiting for the public release. As always, thank you again for watching, and don't get fooled.